Two people, same income, same budget, same savings rate. One of them will be wealthy in 15 years, the other will be exhausted. You already know you're not the problem. You've read the books, you run the numbers, you've cut the subscriptions, skipped the vacations that didn't make sense, said no to things you actually wanted. You are, by every measurable standard, financially responsible. And somehow the gap between where you are and where you thought discipline would take you keeps not closing. That's not a budget problem, not an income problem, and it's definitely not a willpower problem. You have too much willpower, that's actually the issue. There are two types of people who spend less than they earn. From the outside, they look identical. Same frugal habits, same low expenses, same numbers on a spreadsheet. But one of them is building wealth silently, almost effortlessly, and the other is losing a war they don't even know they're fighting, and the war doesn't end. There is a specific habit, one that takes maybe 10 minutes a day, that separates these two groups. It has nothing to do with investment strategy, nothing to do with income. It has everything to do with where the actual work of being financially free is happening. And most people never find it because they're busy winning battles that shouldn't exist in the first place. Think about the last time you made a financial decision under pressure. Not a big one, a small one. Someone suggests a dinner out, a weekend trip appears in a group chat, a new version of something you already own shows up in your feed, a colleague walks in wearing something you noticed without meaning to. In that moment, something happens that nobody in the minimalist wealth-building conversation talks about. Your brain runs a calculation that isn't financial. It asks, do I want this? And the weight of that answer, the speed of it, determines everything. The disciplined person says no, eventually, after a brief internal negotiation. They win that round, they feel good about it, they track it maybe. They go home knowing they held the line. What they don't see is the cost of holding the line. Every act of financial discipline, every no pulled up through willpower withdraws from a biological account that has a daily limit. It's called ego depletion, and it's not motivational speaker theory. It's decades of behavioral research. The same mental resource you use to stay on budget is the same one being drained by every other decision you make from the moment you wake up, by Friday night, by the third month of the same budget. By the vacation surrounded by people who don't live the way you've committed to living. The dam doesn't break because you're weak. The dam breaks because dams were never designed to hold forever. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. For the disciplined broke person, the dam breaks on a schedule, predictably, reliably, usually at the moments that cost the most: holiday spending, travel, major life events, social pressure situations, not small defeats, large ones that quietly undo months of small wins. This is the invisible compound interest of wanting. The desire you've been resisting doesn't disappear when you say no to it. It sits in a psychological holding pattern. It grows associations. Every time you see it, every time someone else has it, every time you're tired and the thing is available and the reason you said no feels abstract, it gets heavier. You're not just declining a purchase. You're paying ongoing rent on a desire you never examined. And that rent compounds invisibly, month after month, until the dam holds no longer. The wealthy minimalist does not have a stronger dam. They don't have a dam at all. This is the distinction that looks small from the outside and creates an entirely different financial life over decades. The discipline-based saver lives on a minefield. They know where the mines are, they've walked this path before, they're careful, and most days they get through fine, but the field is always there, and occasionally they don't get through fine. The identity-based minimalist never crosses the field, not because they have more control, because the mines were removed, not deactivated, removed. What that means in practice is this: the desire itself, the wanting, gets examined before it calcifies, before it becomes something that requires resistance. Think about how different that is. One person is managing resistance, the other never generates the friction that requires it. Same income, same low spending, radically different internal experience, and 20 years later, different net worth. Here's where it compounds, and this time, literally. When you carry unexamined desires, things you're being disciplined about, things you've told yourself you can't have right now, things in a mental queue, they accrue interest. They don't dissolve when you say no, they stay, and they return. The disciplined person fights the same battle multiple times, the same specific desire, the same category of temptation, different weeks, different triggers, same internal war. Frugality without identity restructuring is repetitive warfare. You keep winning battles on the same terrain. The minimalist fights it once at the origin, and it's done, not through strength, through a question the disciplined person never asked: do I actually want this, or was it placed in front of me? When you trace desire back to its actual source consistently as a daily practice, something quietly remarkable happens. The desire set compresses, not through deprivation, not through discipline, through examination. Things that were never genuinely yours to want stop generating the friction of wanting them. A car upgrade that arrived because a neighbor pulled into the driveway with something new, not yours. A piece of technology that arrived because an ad reframed it as necessary, not yours. The specific version of something when the version you own still works, not yours. This question sounds simple, it isn't. Because the system you live inside is specifically engineered to make that question feel unnecessary. You scroll a feed and you already know what you want. You walk through a store and you already know what catches your eye. Desire arrives pre-assembled, with context, justification, and social proof already attached. You didn't decide to want anything, you just started wanting it. And by the time discipline arrives to intervene, the desire is already real, already has weight, already costs something to refuse. The minefield was built overnight while you were sleeping. This is why disciplined people stay broke, not morally, not behaviorally, structurally. They're solving the problem too late. They're managing desires they never chose to have because they never asked for them at the source. The habit that separates wealthy minimalists from the disciplined broke is this: examining a desire before it becomes a desire. Not as philosophy, not as meditation, as a mechanical daily practice. There's a deliberate pause, sometimes just a few seconds, between exposure to something and the formation of a want. In that gap, one question gets asked: where did this come from? Not do I need this? That question arrives after wanting is already established. The earlier question, is this mine, or was it constructed? A want that traces back to a genuine, long-standing personal value, that's yours. Keep it, pursue it, spend on it without guilt. A want that traces back to comparison, to advertising, to boredom, to a moment of fatigue, to someone else's life passing in front of you, that want was installed without your consent. And when you see it clearly, it doesn't require discipline to release. It simply dissolves. You don't fight it. You just stop funding it with your attention. This is the practice that compresses the desire set. This is what removes the mines before you have to walk around them. This is how minimalist wealth building actually works, not through spending less, but through genuinely wanting less. And not through wanting less by force, but by discovering that most of what you were fighting to not want was never really yours to want. This is why the wealth gap between these two groups isn't explained by income or investment returns. The disciplined saver sends the same money to the same accounts, but they arrive at 50 carrying years of willpower debt, exhausted, occasionally emptied, having won most battles while never quite winning the war. The minimalist arrives at 50 with the same portfolio, the same numbers, but without the weight, not because life was easier, because the work was done upstream before desire became expensive to resist. Wealth is quiet, not because wealthy minimalists are more disciplined, because they stopped needing to be. Here's what this means practically. The gap between where you are and where you could be is not a savings gap. It's not a budget gap. It's a desire architecture gap. And desire architecture can be rebuilt, one examined want at a time. The 10 minutes that separates these two groups is not a budgeting session, not a spreadsheet. It's the habit of sitting with a new desire before it hardens and tracing it back to its origin. If the answer is, this came from inside me, from something I've valued for years, from a genuine need I've thought about clearly, it stays. If the answer is, this came from an ad, from comparison, from a moment of emptiness, from someone else's life crossing mine briefly, it dissolves, not through force, just through being seen for what it actually is. You don't build financial freedom by resisting more. You build it by wanting better. The difference between the disciplined broke and the wealthy minimalist was never the budget. It was always the battlefield. One of them is still on it. The other one left a long time ago and built wealth in the silence they found there.